Oh boy, it has been 3 months since I've done a video about the characters in my campaign settings, so that means we're very much due for an update. And of course, as promised, with the 3-month gap in between and everything, we're establishing the last of the trio of strong ladies from Scorchwood and the Dukayan Warriors. So let's just do a quick recap because it's been a while for all of us. I've been putting together a pretty large D&D 5th edition campaign that I am building from the ground up, more or less, but I am an anxious overplanner and I also just really enjoy designing characters and world building. So instead of just creating a framework of a world and running a campaign, which is what you should do, my notes are oops accidentally turning into a campaign setting book. It's crazy how that happens. The campaign book is centered on a continent called Vassaldal, a land that was birthed out of the scorn of the gods. Vassaldal has been run for the last millennia by an ASMR empress named Modrive. Thanks to her guidance and with the help of a couple 2-3 rewritten histories, Vassaldal becomes a thriving land rich in both coin and culture. But there is conflict in the west. A soldier named Moros Salrog begins a revolution. The crown has been on the same head for far too long, and it is time to usher in a new era of power. The continent is currently in an ever-fluctuating battle of borders between Modriva's old empire and what people are calling the new empire, as well as the neutral territories doing their best to either avoid the crossfire or make a profit off of it. And now we zoom in and enhance on the desert cities in the Morinheller Basin. Most of these are neutral territories, but a couple of these cities are allied with the old empire and the empress, including Scorchwood, a city governed by the Duchess Valentina Lunyaveja and her 3 generals, Sayola Sorsko, known as Kytherblood, Sifawena Runeregard, or Tempest Soul, and today's strong lady of interest, Priyankana Drognos, also known as Kismet Nil. Each of these generals are in charge of training a various group of people, and in Dungeons & Dragons terms, Ziola spends her time training the strength-based classes, Sifawena trains the wisdom-based classes, and Priyankana trains the dexterity classes. These women are known to have taught some of the most fearsome, yes, but more importantly, persistent warriors in the country. And to be even more transparent about why I made these 3, these ladies are going to be a couple of my excuses to build cool Vassaldar related background options for player characters, and if I'm feeling very, very brave someday, which might not happen, maybe even a subclass, but I think that's pushing it a little bit hard. I actually have drawn Priyankana Drognos before, although you can hardly call it a drawing. It was in a video where I drew as many of my NPCs from memory in a 1-hour time limit. It was very much in that moment that I decided Priyankana would be a Githyanki character, so you can actually witness the moment, the thought process, live and on the spot. But spoiler alert, the thought process is panic. I was doing so well, and then I suddenly wasn't. Even though I knew that she was going to be a Gith character, it still took me a really long time to be happy with her facial structure and features. I already said this in a previous video where I drew Kirin, another one of my Githyanki NPCs, but I really heavily rely on the cheek shape and noses to create differences between character faces. And all Giths have high cheekbones and little teeny tiny upturned noses. Took me just a little bit more intentional thinking to make sure that I was creating a distinct character. But this extra time spent working on the markings on her face led me down an interesting detour that I absolutely loved for this character. So the original intent was to go in and give her spots that sort of mimic the look of a skull, because all rogues are edgelords and it's just fun to indulge that inner edgelord every once in a while. But I was drawing the spots that were supposed to look like teeth lines, and the lines ended up looking like those wrinkles that some elderly folk tend to have around their lips, especially people who have smoked quite a bit in their lifetime. And secondly, I may or may not be watching Don, which may or may not have 2 particularly powerful grannies as key characters in the show, and that mayhapsibly influenced me to make the decision that Priyankana is the eldest of the group. Which makes a lot of sense, kinda, because, you know, Giths tend to live a little bit longer than Dragonborns and humans do, and this is the age of powerful granny characters, and I am so into it. So finally, after much futzing around with the sketch as a whole, not just the face but her clothes as well, it was time to continue the trend of being not super sure of a single one of my artistic decisions while putting in the flats. The only thing I knew here was that I wanted red to be a significant enough color in the overall outfit. Somewhere in the comments of Sifuena's video, somebody mentioned that both Sif and Ziola have red as a very significant part of their character designs, and I was like, well, now I gotta have red in Priyankana's design too, right? And you definitely will see me swap the sections the colors are in and pull out that HSV hue saturation value slider just to tweak those colors a little bit, because if we are anything on this here channel, we are unsure and in need of constant reassurance and validation. But in the end, I think I found a good balance of darks and lights in her outfit. And also, I just want to point out that I did a very good job because for once in my life, I did not rely on thigh-high boots as an escape. I actually gave Priyankana tubby shoes because the split toe design is specifically made for mobility and agility, and I mean, that's got rogue behavior written all over it. It just makes sense. Okay, so now that we've gotten most of the design and art talk out of the way, let's talk character traits and personality and maybe sneak in a little bit of lore here and there. Priyankana is chaotic neutral, which is a little unique for having been part of such a militant group for the majority of her life. She holds the values of her home city in extremely high regard. However, she has very little respect for those who blindly follow laws and tradition. Scorchwood warriors tend to spend a lot of their time defending nomadic tribes in the desert from threats and acting as a military force for small neighboring cities and villages that can't raise their own armies. But it is not unusual for a Scorchwood warrior to be sent to another location on the continent to teach a class, conduct a stealth mission, or defend the old empire alongside the larger army. Priyankana has seen her fair share of both the rise and fall of cities, the heroics and cowardice of highly trained soldiers, and the greatness and folly of those in positions of power. She firmly believes that you should do what you believe is right and follow a law because you know it to be for the greater good and not because it's what someone wearing a crown wrote on a paper hundreds of years ago. Priyankana has a very similar philosophy regarding fate, destiny, and things of that nature. She refuses to believe that anything is set in stone. She scoffs at destiny. She lives in spite, but furthermore, she thinks that anyone who allows themselves to be defined by such things is limiting themselves without even trying. And this is the reason why she was bestowed the name Kismet Nil. No fate, no destiny, only the merits of your own hard work. I have a few ideas for what sort of background benefits a student under Priyankana might have. There are a couple different routes this could go, most likely with proficiencies in stealth, and I think it would be interesting to throw in either investigation or perception. I know athletics or acrobatics probably also makes a lot of sense, but I think it would be fun to tack on the observant feat as well. The observant feat provides your character with the ability to read lips and also adds a huge buff to passive perception and passive investigation. Although I guess I did say her emphasis is dexterity, so maybe I should make it more traditional and have a feat that includes the ability to learn the invisibility spell or some sort of buff to ranged weapons. We'll see what I balance out at the end of the day, but of course, last but not least, being a student of Priyankana and the greater organization of the Dukain warriors of Scorchwood as a whole, and if your player character backstory doesn't include a major burning of bridges between you and the warriors, you are happily welcomed back into the fold, and also more easily trusted by members of the Dukain that you find wherever you're traveling. So you'll have the benefit of lodging with them or information from them or whatever else they might have. So designing characters is fun and all, and I love drawing them, and I absolutely, of course I want to draw them all. It's literally my whole life, my whole channel, drawing characters. It just sparks so much joy, and it always has. That being said, I do not work on the lore and world building nearly as much as I should. I made a resolution at the start of the year to write at least one sentence in the campaign notes every single day, no matter how vague of an idea it was, not worrying about whether or not the sentence would make the final cut, just getting all the ideas out. Needless to say, that didn't consistently happen, and a lot of it, most of it, I definitely acknowledge as my own fault, but also a lot of really unexpected things happened this year, and I am a little sorry because a lot of you love listening to the world building part of things and are excited to see it all come together, and the reason I'm posting it in the first place is to hold myself accountable, but it is a really slow going process. I really want to work on it more. I just have so many passion projects and things derail so very quickly and so very easily, but I guess all that is just to say thank you so much for the continued support and the patience, and for just enjoying this slow-going little lore dump with me. It helps me a lot with organizing my thoughts and fleshing out the character designs and personalities. So thank you for, again, the patience, but also the opportunity to share my little passion project. But on that note, we have come to the end of our video. I know it was a little short, but last week's project was kind of a doozy of one. So I hope you don't mind me taking it easy, drawing some character, indulging in a little bit of lore, because I sure enjoyed drawing Priyankana. I'm actually really very pleased with how this came out. And I also have finished the trio, Kismet Nil, Tempest Soul, and Kyther Blood, or Priyankana, Sifawene, and Ziola. So it's a little mismatched in lighting and color, and unfortunately that's what comes with the territory of drawing a single member of your trio without ever referencing the others, and also drawing them each 3 months apart. But once again, I love how they all turned out. I really like the personality differences in the clothing, and also the differences in body shapes and composition. I completely unintentionally gave them all golden eyes with a non-traditional pupil, but you know what? It's a vibe. I love it. Love a trio of strong girls, and I hope you all love them as much as I do. I kind of miss setting aside time for campaign building in Vassal Doll specifically, so might mess around with that. Might do a landscape video sometime soon here, might not, but who knows? Not me.